Okay, so we've got tweets, we've got these controls. The liking mechanism is here, but we can't actually do anything with it. So I'd like to actually incorporate that, and it's a little more modular than I have been doing with other stuff. So the way it's going to work is be a polymorphic association that's going to basically relate to any model you want it to. And you can drop it in and make it reusable in such a way. It's a really cool way to approach something such as this. It's not a great use case for everything, but you could have some sort of model that, you know, does the same pattern across other cases. So in the, it's like liking is one of those things, or voting, commenting actually could have been one if we wanted it to be, but I have nothing else I'm going to comment on besides the tweets. So it's up to you. Your app could be a little more efficient if you did try to invoke it that way. But for this, we'll go and make use of it just to show you the powerfulness of it. So I'll generate a new model. I'm going to say Rails generate model like, and it's going to be a Likeable references. So we're making that up. And common convention is to make an able type of word for the thing you're doing. That's going to be a polymorphic association. It doesn't have to always be that way, but it's kind of a convention I see that is most of the time the case. It just allows you to have this instance of a thing that can be adaptable and like maybe like latched on to another model and just work. So we'll have references, but then this funny looking syntax called polymorphic on the generator. So that's going to essentially tell it to be a polymorphic association. We'll have to do a few more things, but that sets us up for success there. Then we'll have a user references, since it's going to be, you know, always invoked by a user. So with this in place, we can go ahead and run it. I'll go ahead and create that, and let's check out the migration just so you can see what it looks like. Right here, create likes. It's going to create references a Likeable polymorphic true, and then we'll have our user references as well. So I'll go ahead and run that migration. So before I do that, I'm going to say Rails DB rollback. I want to make one little change to that migration that I forgot. I'm going to make an index on the Likeable. So I'm going to say index true here. There we go. Just better for performance. Migrate that. Now we created it. Great. And if you aren't sure, this kind of makes this new table in the database that looks like, let's find it. Likes. So we got a Likeable type and a Likeable ID. Now when you pass that polymorphic thing, that's the kind of convention it goes by. The type is always going to be what kind of class it is. So it's like in our case, it'll be a tweet or it'll be a comment. And then the ID will be the ID of the thing. So like the tweet ID or the comment ID. So that's just a way to pass this model through and push any type of class to it, and it'll still work, instead of just having a specific like tweet ID or comment ID on it, if that makes sense. So I hope that does. We'll need to amend our model. So for like, it's going to have this already in place, which is cool. So you just set polymorphic true, belongs to Likeable. And then tweet's going to have many likes. And then the key thing to remember is put as Likeable. And then a comment will have the same. Right on. So what I want to do is go to our routes. We'll add a route, simple one, very simple, just to do resources, likes, only create. There we go. Then I will make that controller. Call it LikesController. .rb class likes controller. There we go. Now this is kind of not like amazing, but it will do what we want it to do. So I'm going to create what I ended up using. So it's going to be a before action where we set Likeable. There are other patterns you could go about doing this in a more dynamic and efficient way, but I'm going to do it this way to just keep it all in one place. Don't sue me if you think this is crappy code. It probably is. So set Likeable, and what I want to do is get the likable thing. So we're always going to be performing a request to figure out what kind of class it is. So it's either going to be, in our case, a tweet or a comment. So we could say params likable type. We'll pass that through the like when we go to the front end part. And through dynamic Ruby, I'm going to use that class to find params likable ID. So this will essentially turn into a class name. Like this could, like once we pass it through, will end up being like tweet, just like we see here, or comment. Okay. So that's a kind of dynamic way to do it. I don't know that I see this much, so I can't say it's a perfect example, but like I said, don't sue me. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to have an if likable likes, because you can only, okay, here's the reason this exists and what you're about to see. When you like a tweet, you can only like it once. If it's liked, you want to be able to unlike it. So you need those mechanisms built into the logic here, and we need it to respond as such. So this is what all this is going to end up being looking like as a result. So I'm going to check if the likes already exist, essentially, and likable liked by, I'll create that method in a second, current user, else int. So we're going to say if it's the current user and they've already liked it and there's a count of more than one, we'll need to go get that like and the user. You could just say current user here. So that's how we track that one down. Just say like.destroy. Otherwise, we'll create one. So we'll say like equals likable likes.new like.user equals current user, and then like.save. I'm going to use the bang just in case there's any errors. If you pass this here, it will, perform any errors and tell you. Otherwise, it'll be kind of more of like a silent attack here if something happens. Let's create what I'm going to call a concern. This will be something we put here in the concerns folder, and it's going to be a module. And we can extend it to include the Rails concern. And that gives us access to some methods in here. So we'll say included do. This allows us to reuse some logic. Essentially, remember, if you recall, we said it has many likes. As likable. And then I'm going to do that liked by method here. And we could just say what user come through. Likes where user.any. So this is a chaining thing. If you think out in the wild, you're going to be able to pass like tweet or comment, something like that. Okay. So back here, we're basically using that already. So Likeable, we're passing through the user and going forth. Now the trick here is to go audit our models again. So in our comment, we have this already. Instead, I'm going to include our concern. So you could just say include Likeable. Then you could go back to your tweet and do the same. So it's just duplicate logic. So there's no sense in writing it twice. That's kind of the point of concerns. That gives us access to those. So that's pretty clean when it comes to that. You know, if it's a include, typically it's got this able convention, naming convention. And then in here, you're extending the active support for a concern that gives you access to something like this and a few other methods. Then you can include your stuff as far as relationships go, and then any helper methods you want in your app. So that's kind of a nice way to package it all up into a reusable thing. We've got likes now. I think we can maybe check we're gonna have to update the views. First, let's go get all the logic in the controller done. So we're gonna need to create a likes folder in the views. And inside that, I'm gonna put a create turbo stream ERB file. We only have that action, so that's all we really need to worry about. I'm gonna put the code for now and then explain it as we get going with the views. So there is an update all method that we can call, and that's kind of useful if you have multiple tweets. So in our case, I'm doing this because there's might be a case where you have retweets of your tweets in view and they all get liked at the same time by you. Then you want to update each accordingly. So this is what's going to happen with this call. So Likeable. It's confusing, I'm sure, but I'm going to try to show you visually here in a second what I mean. Okay, and in here we'll render likes like, pass in Likeable. Okay, now of course we need the like partial. So let's, I forgot to add one other bit. So if we go turbo stream update, so this part is actually updating your like, and then this part is getting the like size on this page. So we'll be rendering, if you go to the show view, there's a like size. So this will actually update here in a second. Let me figure that out. We gotta pass the class name through. I'm gonna use a DOM ID, Likeable again, underscore likes size. Then you could just pass the value of that size. So Likeable likes size. Confusing AF, I'm sure, but we'll get there. Hang on. Okay, so in our controls, we want to update that so we can get that dynamically here. So we've got this right here is our likes, a content tag of div, do it in Rails, class, DOM ID, tweet. This is going to map to what we're calling with the turbo stream response. So likes, do block. This will allow us to render our like partial. Then Likeable will be the tweet. Okay. Let me double check that was correct. Got it wrong here. You save that file. There we go. So it's not rendering right now because we have nothing in that partial. So let's actually add the contents of it. What I want to do is add a button to block. I'm going to get the icon. Honestly, I'm just going to copy and paste here. Hang on. This will take way too long. So I'm going to get this, and talk you through it. Okay. Here I've got our likes path. We get this one for free with the routing we have. If you want to go check that out, if you just search likes, we get basic likes path because we've only got post. With that said, you can pass through parameters that you just want to include. So if I re-render this page, we'll see that, but I'm going to go inspect element on this. If you look in the action here, I'm passing through a Likeable ID and then the Likeable type, which is tweet. We're going to use access to both of those things. Now there could be a better way to do this. I'm sure there is. I'm just doing it this way because it kind of makes more sense to me. So I'm able to pass through the ID and the type right on through the request. We'll make sure it's a post request because that's the only action we actually added. And then depending on if you liked it or not, we'll do different states for the UI. So there's a filled heart icon and then there's a stroked icon. And then if you remember in the create turbo stream, we did this DOM ID Likeable like size. So that's going to increase the count on the likes to the right size in real time. So hopefully if I were to like this, looks like we got an issue, non-class module. What happened? Can't spell. There we go. Let's try that. Okay, so it did work. It's doing stuff. It just didn't exactly. Let's see what the link this is. Button to post. So why is it deleting? Let's see what the request is doing. Post like selectable. Looks like we have an error. I think I have this wrong. It should be size count. Need to get the actual count. We're still getting errors. Now we got a template error. Let's see. ID for nil class. Oh, I'm not passing that through. Am I? Am I not? Okay, so those are liked. Looks like something's not correct on the, maybe on the create. So if we go to our likes, create, I didn't spell that right. So it needs to be Likeable. I think this is honestly not the right spelling, but I stuck with it because I got so far into this tutorial that I'm like, I'm not changing it now. So if it is wrong, apologies. But there we go. Now I get that like count. Looks like the state isn't quite updating as I'd hoped, but it's like a bug right there. So tweet ID button 2. Let's go into our controls. This big space shouldn't be there. I think that might be what's up. There we go. Cool. So you notice I retweeted this tweet and it's the other version of it. So now if I like it, that one gets liked in real time. Then this one gets liked, so on and so forth. We can like that one too. So that's pretty neat to me. And then that's the logic that's going on right behind the scenes here. If it's a certain way and things are a certain pattern, then we'll unlike it. Otherwise, we'll like it. So you don't want to ever like make it multiple likes for the same user. And then we could go sign in as me. And those are liked, but notice they're not the state of the person liking them. So if I go to like that, then that gets 2 likes. I can like myself and that one too. So all in all, I think it's working pretty well. Cool. So now the cool thing is we can repeat this straight to the comments. So I'll go to our comments files. I think we might have the controls rendering there. It's the same way. So render likes. Make sure the likable thing is there. If we go into this, we need to actually have a response. So this is a response. Reply. Then we can like it. And it works. Sweet. So just like that. Pretty simple. The tweet or the comment destroy, we added that already. So it's fairly straightforward. So I think we already covered that bit. But if you delete it, there it is. So okay, so while we create this, I'm going to update the comment count. So on a tweet show, I believe maybe I commented out that. Now we can do that. The controls are there. So I think controls, if we go into there, I'm going to get the comment size. We'll go under here in this area and do a turbo frame tag. We'll say DOM ID, tweet, comments count, do. I'm going to just extract this to comments count, and we'll render it as a new partial. So tweets, comments count. Then we'll have tweet. Let's create that partial. So I'll say comments count. Paste that in. I believe that's what would be inside. Okay, and then we can update our create on the comment to include this other bit. So we'll say turbo stream replace DOM ID tweet comments count do render tweets comments count tweet. So I think, yeah, so now this updates in real time as we add it. So that's pretty spectacular. There goes 3. If I delete one, it'll update 2. Oh, we need to do the same and delete. So let's go to destroy. We'll just paste that in. Honestly, it should have worked the same way, right? Yep. Awesome. So gotta love that real-time stuff. Seems to not work when I do that though. We need our count of retweets. So what would that look like in our case? We can go to controls. Probably just keep that simple for now. So I'll find where that retweet is. It's just 3 here. So I'll just say tweet where. Obviously you could probably extract this. I'm just making it simple for now. So that gives us a dynamic component. Yeah. So on this page, it's kind of funky. We'd want to probably render like a redirect or something, or like an alert if the tweet was retweeted on the show action. But in this case, that's just more code to add to the app. So I'm going to forego that for now. That's about it. I think we want to go to the profile now, and you see some blank ones. I think all we need to do there is just update the rendering. So I'll go to show. We're doing this collection here, but instead we could do something like what we do on the index right here. So I'll go back to that profile page. Let's get rid of the UL, to be honest. I think profile tweets is what we're after. Profile. There we go. So now I got that set up. Maybe I'll do a little margin. And there we go. Cool. So it's looking pretty good. Obviously there's some flaws. I don't expect this to be perfect by any means, but so far I'm really liking the results. It's cool to see things update in real time and whatnot. So you could definitely extend this and make it much better than what you see. The goal here is just to update it to use the new models and concepts of Turbo in the framework and get it up to spec with Rails 7, just so you could see how you could build something you've probably seen so many times before if you're an active Twitter user. So I hope this was helpful. This was kind of a feat to create. Actually, the written version of it I did before recording this, and it clocked in at about an hour read. So if you enjoy the reading component, I have it. It's slightly different than this, but it is something I reference while creating this guide. So I definitely invite you to check that out too. It's at webcrunch.com. And that's it for now. So I thank you all so much. If you have more suggestions, or if you want me to recreate older versions of stuff I've done before again, let me know what you want to see. So I'd love to hear about it. All right, peace. Hello Rails is my new course on Ruby on Rails. I'll teach you Ruby on Rails from the ground up. Visit hellorails.io for more information.